Hello friends, once again welcome you all to the Beginners IAS YouTube channel. In last class we have seen about national emergency. Today we are going to see the continuation. In last class we have discussed about the grounds for declaring a proclamation of national emergency and how it is declared and approval and duration. We have seen about 42nd Amendment Act and also we have seen about 44th Amendment Act, how this proclamation of emergency will be declared and what happens during 1975, whether this proclamation of emergency has judicial review or not, and procedures for proclaiming national emergency and how this national emergency will be revoked. These are the things we have discussed in the last class. Today we are going to continue with that. The first is, what are the effects during the proclamation of national emergency? So there are list of effects. Let us see one by one. That is the effect on the center-state relations, the effect on the life of the Lok Sabha and State Assembly, and the effect on the fundamental rights. Let us see one by one. The first is effect on the center-state relations. During the proclamation of national emergency, the center and state will undergo a basic change. Okay, these changes are under three heads, namely executive, legislative and financial. Let us see one by one. Let's begin with executive. This executive power of the center extend to directing any state regarding the manner in which its executive powers is to be exercised. In normal times, the center can give executive directions to a state only on a specified matter, but during the proclamation of national emergency, the center extend to directing any state regarding the matter in which its executive power is to be exercised. That is, the state government are brought under the complete control of the state, though the state legislature has not suspended. And what are the things going to affect in the legislative? Let us see. The parliament becomes empowered to make a laws on any subject mentioned in the state list, not only union list, not only concurrent list, and also in the state list. Although the legislative power of the state legislature is not suspended, it becomes the subject to overriding power of the parliament. So here the normal distribution of the legislative powers between center and state is suspended, though the state legislature are not suspended. That means it becomes unitary rather than federal. So unitary means all the powers will go under center. There is no power for the state government. So let us move on to financial power. During proclamation of national emergency, the financial power is in operation. The president can modify constitutional distributions of revenue between the center and state. That means the president can either reduce or cancel the transfer of finances from center to the state. Such modification continues only till the end of financial year in which emergency ceases to operate. So also, every such order of the president has to be laid before the house of the parliament for their approval. So what are the effects of life of Lok Sabha and state assembly? While the proclamation of national emergency is in operation, the life of Lok Sabha may be extended beyond its normal time. What do you mean by normal tenure? So the normal tenure of Lok Sabha is 5 years, but during the proclamation of national emergency, it is extended to 1 more year at a time, that is for any length of time. However, you should note that this extension cannot continue beyond a period of 6 months after the emergency has to be ceased to be operate. That is, once the proclamation of national emergency revoked, then the extension cannot continue beyond a period of 6 months. Then what are the effects of fundamental rights? that is given in the Constitution under Article 358 and 359. What is Article 358? This Article 358 deals with suspension of the fundamental rights guaranteed by Article 19. What is Article 19? The Article 19 contains 6 fundamental rights. So those 6 fundamental rights has been suspended during the national emergency automatically. It does not need any approval from the Parliament. Whereas Article 359 deals with the suspension of other fundamental rights. Other fundamental rights in the sense, the fundamental rights start with Article 12 to Article 35. So, it not only suspends Article 19, it suspends all fundamental rights from Article 12 to Article 35 except under Article 20 and 21. So, you people know about Article 20 and 21. Then we move on to suspensions of fundamental rights under Article 19. So, according to the Article 358, when the proclamation of national emergency is made, these 6 fundamental rights under Article 9 are automatically suspended. Just now we discussed. So, no separate order for their suspension is required. When the national emergency ceases to operate, the Article 19, that is, those 6 fundamental rights provided in the Article 19 reviews and comes into force. You can approach the violation of your fundamental rights after this national emergency ceases to operate. So what happened in 44th Amendment Act of 1978? These 44th Amendment of 1978 restricted the scope of Article 358 in 2 ways. Firstly, these 6 fundamental rights under Article 19 can be suspended only during the national emergency declared on external aggression. What do you mean by external aggression? That is the grounds on war or external aggression, not on the grounds of armed rebellion. What is armed rebellion? That is internal disturbance. Those word has been changed in the Constitution. And then secondly, only those laws which are related with the emergency are protected from being challenged, not other laws. Other laws in the sense only it covers fundamental rights, that is Article 12 to Article 35. Totally the Constitution has provided 395 articles for the Indian Constitution. That is the Constitution of India has totally 395 articles. So then also the executive action taken under such law is protected. So that is Amendment of Act of 1978. So what are the suspensions of other fundamental rights? To suspend other fundamental rights apart from Article 19, so this Article 359 authorizes the President to suspend right to move any court for the enforcement of fundamental rights during a national emergency. That means in a normal situation, if the fundamental rights are violated, any person can approach a court, High Court or Supreme Court to enforce their fundamental rights. That is under Article 226, you can approach a High Court. Under Article 32, you can approach a Supreme Court for the violation of your fundamental rights in a normal situation. Whereas in a national emergency has been proclaimed, you cannot approach either Supreme Court or High Court to enforce your fundamental rights. That is, this means under Article 359, the fundamental rights as such are not suspended, but you cannot approach a court to enforce these fundamental rights. That is, the suspension of enforcement related to only those fundamental rights that are specified in the presidential order. It means it does not automatically suspended, only by the presidential order. And let us see the difference between Article 358 and Article 359. These During a proclamation of national emergency, this Article 19 suspends automatically. Only Article 19 suspend. That is, those 6 fundamental rights provided under Article 19 has been suspended. And whereas in Article 359 all the fundamental rights can be suspended, and here enforcement. So this is automatically suspended, whereas Article 359 by presidential order. So what happens in Article 358? Only during the external emergency it has been suspended. What do you mean by external emergency? War or external aggression, not during the internal emergency. Whereas under Article 359, both external and internal emergency period, you can suspend all the fundamental rights by a presidential order. Where it applicable? Under Article 358, it is applicable to entire country. Whereas in Article 359, it is applicable to part of the country or entire country. So here only Article 19 suspended. Here all the fundamental rights are suspended except Article 20 and Article 21. And then what are the declarations? How many declarations made so far? There are 3 times declared a national emergency, that is during 1962, during the Chinese aggression, and in 1971 by attack by the Pakistan, during 1975, that is internal emergency imposed by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Yesterday, in the last section, we have seen about that the Amendment Act of 1975, how the internal emergency has been implemented, etc. So, thank you.